The LA Kings hit the road coming off their best game of the season. We recap and preview next on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up, we have a look at the Kings' upcoming road trip. We'll check out where the Kings are in the Pacific Division standings and even give you a rain report. But we start with the Kings wrapping up a stretch of 7 of 9 games at home, and those 2 games on the road were in the state of California, against the top team in the NHL, the Minnesota Wild, this past Saturday. It was game number 27 of the season for the Kings, and a huge opportunity for LA to not only finish off this stretch of games on the right note, but knock off one of the top teams in the NHL. The Kings lineup in this one would be the same as it was the previous game, as LA going to this 11-7 setup once again, 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. Top line would be Anze Kopitar centering Trevor Moore and Adrian Kempe. Second line, Phillip Danault centering Alex Laperriere and Kevin Fiala. Quentin Byfield centering the third line with Tanner Jeannot and Warren Foegele. And the fourth line of Samuel Hellenius with Alex Turcotte, and the other forward, the other winger on that line, would rotate amongst the other forwards. On defense, you had Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov as the top pairing, Joel Edmondson with Brandt Clark, Jacob Moverara with Jordan Spence, and Kyle Burrows would be the extra defenseman. For the Kings, the goaltender would be Darcy Kuemper, back in net, starting his first game since November 13th, coming back from injury, and David Riddick would serve as the backup. Big question for me going into this game, pretty simple. Would the Kings play 3 solid periods, get off to a good start against one of the best teams in the NHL? Well, the Kings would get off to a very good start in this one. They were flying around the ice, getting shots on goal and bodies to the net, a formula that's worked well for them over the last stretch of games. They played solid defense. They were limiting Minnesota's chances, and the hard work would pay off as LA would get the first goal of the game late in the period, with Anze Kopitar setting up Adrian Kempe to make it 1-0. More of the same in the second period, maybe even better, as the Kings extended the lead to 2-0 on a power play goal from Alex Laperriere. Second period, maybe their best period of the year, I thought. It was that good. Third period, the Kings did not sit on the lead. They continued to keep the pressure on Minnesota. Late in the game, Kings get a pair of Trevor Moore empty net goals sandwiched in between Minnesota's only goal of the game, and LA skates off with a convincing 4-1 win to extend their longest winning streak of the season to 5 in a row. Game stats in this one: Kings win at 4-1, shots on goal favoring LA 34-23. On the power play, Minnesota was 0 for 2, while the Kings were 1 for 2. Faceoffs favored the Kings 28-22. Hits, slight edge for Minnesota 20-19. Block shots favored the visitors 22-17. My takeaway from this game, pretty simple. This was the best game of the season. 3 solid periods of hockey. The Kings didn't dominate. It was a good hockey game. Minnesota obviously is a good team and has been playing very well of late. But I thought LA was the better team pretty clearly for all 3 periods against a team that is tied for the most points in the NHL. Obviously, to me, that makes it the best game of the season. Quote of the game from head coach Jim Hiller, who said, quote, "We're a solid team. We're a really solid team. I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but when I say that, that's a real compliment to our players. Solid, top to bottom. We have a lot of players who have come in and out of injury, and somebody else has had to come in. So very solid, a lot of depth, very, very solid," end quote. I think Jim Hiller is saying the Kings are a solid team. So what was good for the Kings from a team standpoint? Pretty much everything. Did they play a perfect game? No. During their worst parts of the game, it was probably a competitive game where the teams were kind of going back and forth at each other. During the best parts of the game, the Kings were rolling. There were no real stretches of this game where the Kings were being outplayed. Certainly, there were moments for Minnesota here and there, but not anything that ever really changed who it felt like was in control of the game. Kings forecheck was solid. They limited turnovers. They cycled the puck, had a shot mentality. They got pucks and bodies towards the net, played a very solid defensive game, including the goaltending. Kings special teams were good, not allowing a power play goal while getting one of their own. Second power play unit scored their first goal of the season. Kings have allowed one goal or less in 11 games this season. That is the best in the NHL. Kings improved to 10-2-1 on home ice. And as I mentioned, they have won a season high 5 straight games. What was not so good for the Kings from a team standpoint? Well, not much. Again, I'm not trying to say they played a perfect game. I don't think there is anything such thing as a perfect game. There's always going to be moments here and there where the other team does something good. And the Wild are a very good team. They've had a great season so far. And they had their opportunities. But again, just talking about from who was in control of the game, it was the Kings to me from start to finish. Probably the one thing at the very, very beginning of the game, the first shot on goal on Kings goalie Darcy Kemper, the first shot he's seen in a long time because coming back from injury, was a great opportunity off a turnover. But after that, it was pretty much all Kings. I just thought it was, again, considering the opponent, the Kings played, I thought, their best game of the season. 3 solid periods of hockey where, again, it felt like when you look at the period in its totality, I don't know how you didn't come away saying the Kings were the better team that period. The Kings were the better team that period, and the Kings were the better team that period. And that's what you're looking for. We know the Kings aren't going to win every game. That's not going to happen. Even if they play well, there's going to be times where the other team's a little bit better. But you want to see them get off to a good start, have that energy, play the right way. And if they get beat by a hot goalie or, a better team, then so be it. But it wasn't going to be that night against the Minnesota Wild. So my big takeaway, though, from this game is how much should we really start to believe in the Kings right now? Every team, for the most part, every team that's, decent has a stretch of games where they don't play great, and they have a stretch of games where they play very well. We've been waiting for the Kings to have one of those because they hadn't had it to this point, right? They hadn't won more than 2 games in a row all season. Now they've made it 3 and 4 and 5. So that's the question I have. How much should we start believing in the Kings right now? And is this something that should be encouraging for the rest of the season? Obviously, that will be determined by how they play on this upcoming road trip. But as Jim Hiller said, the Kings looked very solid, and I would even say better than that. They looked very, very good over this stretch of 9 games. Not every game was perfect. Not every game was a win, obviously, but on the whole, this was obviously the best stretch of games for the LA Kings. And the question is, can they do something like this in the playoffs? Now, they've played some very good teams of late. So this is not the Kings, getting fat against the weaker teams of the league. This is wins over Winnipeg. This is wins over Minnesota, 2 teams that have 40 points on the season that are tied for the most in the NHL. These are quality wins. And I thought both those games against Winnipeg and Minnesota were pretty clearly the Kings were the better team. So I think we should all be encouraged by what we're seeing right now. I don't think we should overreact to it. I do think this upcoming road trip, this challenge for the Kings, 7 straight away from home against some pretty good teams here and there. It's kind of a mixed bag. We'll get more into that in a little bit, but we'll see. They've been a very good home team. They've been good on the road, not great, but good. You would expect a team to be better at home than on the road. It doesn't always work out that way. But how can the Kings carry this forward? How can they accept the challenge of doing this now away from home? I'm not suggesting that anybody should take away from this stretch of games that the Kings are a cup contender. What I am suggesting that is if they can play this style of hockey, and specifically defensively. I mean, they've been so good defensively, and the goaltending has been good enough, but the defense, limiting the shots, has been exceptional. That's playoff hockey, right? The Kings made those additions to get a little bit tougher, get a little bit more blue collar. That's playoff hockey. So I mean, the formula for the Kings, I knew what they were trying to do when they made these changes. They weren't exciting changes, but they were changes with something specific in mind. I think Jim Hiller so far has shown he is a guy that pushes a lot of the right buttons. So I think, again, it's okay to be encouraged by what we've seen of late. And I will say this, if the Kings can do this more often than not, if the Kings can play this style of hockey more often than not, I will say that I don't think a lot of teams around the NHL are going to want to see the Kings in the first round of the playoffs because they will be a very hard team to get by if they can play like this. So again, got to keep doing it. We wanted to see consistency. We've seen it over the last 9 games. Okay, that was at home for the most part. Now can they take that on the road? We're going to find out over the next couple of weeks. Excited to see it. It's excited to feel good right now about Kings hockey, and we'll see. Jim Hiller thinks they're a solid team. I'd say right now they definitely are very solid, but got to keep it going. Got to keep playing like this more often than not. Can they do it on the road? We're going to find out coming up here very soon. Up next, we're going to look at some individuals in this game against Minnesota that obviously got the job done. That's next. You're on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to take a slap shot to the groin just to save a couple of bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said that it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. I get started, or you should get started, by going to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNHL. There, you'll see that right now all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts to get the new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNHL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNHL. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNHL. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to 15 months. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower than 40 gigabytes on a limited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And we are so lucky, those of us that live here in Southern California, to have so many opportunities to go to so many great events, sports, of course, but we also have theater events, comedy shows, and concerts as well. And Gametime has the tickets to whatever you are into. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks. It makes it even easier to save more. This feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. You'll get the lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's get back into this big win for the LA Kings over the Minnesota Wild and talk about some of the individuals that stood out for the Kings. And as usual, you start with the goaltending. And in his first start since November 13th, Darcy Kuemper, I thought, looked solid throughout. If you were just dropping in on this game, you would never have thought, oh, that's a goalie coming back. He looks a little rusty from injury. He's been out for a while. No, showed no rust at all. Made big saves, and I mentioned that big save right off the start. Usually would like your goalie to not have to make a grade A quality save on the first shot that he saw, but maybe that kind of got Darcy into it immediately, and I thought he looked great throughout. He had one of those games that David Riddick has had recently where it looks like he's going to get the shutout, and then something goes in the very end of the game and spoils the shutout. But very, very solid game for Darcy Kuemper. Great to see. Going to be interesting to see how head coach Jim Hiller uses Kuemper and Riddick going forward on this 7-game road trip. The Kings started on Tuesday, and they only have one set of back-to-back games during the road trip, and it's the final 2 games of the trip, Nashville and then Washington, back-to-back. So we know we're going to see David Riddick for at least 1 game. I would say at least 2. I'm not sure how much Hiller wants to throw Kuemper right back into the fire and have him, start like 6 of 7. I don't think so. But I would expect to see, I wouldn't be shocked if I saw, him start 5 of the 7 games, but we'll see. David Riddick has been good, but been really good on home ice. On the road, not quite as good But we'll see. But Darcy Kemper, great game back from injury for the LA Kings. Hopefully he can stay injury free for a while now. I definitely have to talk about Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov. They got the assignment of shutting down probably the MVP of the league right now, and that's Minnesota's Kirill Kaprizov. If they voted on the award today, I think he gets the win. We'll see. He has to carry it obviously forward for the rest of the season, but he's been that good. Tied for the NHL lead in points with 42. How do you do against the Kings? Nothing. 0 points for Kirill Kaprizov. He was completely shut down. He was a -3 in the game, and a lot of the credit goes to Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov. Jim Hiller made sure they were on the ice for virtually every shift that Kaprizov had. They didn't let him breathe. He didn't get any space. They constantly knew where he was on the ice, and fantastic defensive job by Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov. They've been obviously very, very good this whole season, but I thought this was probably their shining moment so far, the way they handled one of the top players in the NHL. Both of them finished a +2 in the win over Minnesota. Anderson had an assist as well. This certainly has to give the Kings confidence that going up against some of the better players in the NHL, they can put out a pair of players that can really get the job done. So kudos to Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov for the job they did on Kirill Kaprizov. Fantastic. Andrei Kopitar, how about the captain playing in his 1400th career game, exactly 700 at home and 700 on the road? That's crazy, but very cool. And he continues to be a rock. Had the great feed to get the primary assist on the Kempe goal to get the Kings going in the first period. He finished a +2. Someone asked me recently, how has Kopitar's game evolved as he's gotten older? How has he continued to kind of do this? And I honestly don't think it has. I think he's the same guy he's always been. Now, Kopitar's never been a speed burner, so it's not like if he loses a step, it's that noticeable. He's always been a good skater, but he's been a guy who always gets it done with his smarts and his positioning and his size and his ability to see the ice, set up teammates, and getting it done on both ends of the ice. So I honestly think if you watched Andrei Kopitar in a game in year 7, it's pretty much the same thing you're going to see in year 19 now, which is amazing. Kopitar leads the team in points with 31. Last 12 games for the captain, he's got 16 points. He's one away from 30th on the all-time assist list now with that assist he picked up in the game against Minnesota. Problem is the guys that are just ahead of him are still playing. You've got Evgeny Malkin of the Penguins and Patrick Kane of the Red Wings, but Andrei Kopitar continuing to get it done. Enjoy it, Kings fans. This is the greatest King in the history of the franchise, and he's still leading the way. Alex Laferriere, you go from the old veteran to the young up-and-coming player. He would have what would turn out to be the game-winning goal in the game against Minnesota. And with that goal, Alex Laferriere matched his total from a season ago, his rookie year, with 12. So it's obviously going to be a career year for Alex Laferriere. Can he get to 30 or more? It certainly seems that way. Interesting that he got his goal in this game against Minnesota playing on the second power play unit. So Jim Hiller, again, mixing things up a bit. Laferriere is 2 points away from matching his career high in points last season, which was 23. He is second on the team in goals, 1 behind Adrian Kempe. Last 5 games for Laffy, 3 goals, 3 assists, and he has been starting and finishing on that Danault line with his forechecking and his goal scoring. So Alex Laferriere continuing to get it done. Kevin Fiala, we saw good Kevin in the win over Minnesota. Now, unfortunately, his bad luck finishing on breakaways is continuing for some reason. He was stopped on a breakaway on a nice toe save from future Hall of Famer Marc-Andre Fleury. You got to give the Flower credit on that one. But Fiala did have the assist on the power play for the goal for Alex Laferriere. And Kevin has been very good setting up his teammates on the power play of late. So that's certainly encouraging. He also had a great pass to Laferriere for a break-in all alone in the third period when the Kings were up 2-0, but Marc-Andre Fleury again made the save. And like when we talk Kings versus Ottawa, we always have to bring up Byfield and Stützle. Same thing with the Kings in Minnesota and Brock Faber, the young defenseman the Kings traded away to get Kevin Fiala. Now, it's hard to compare the two kind of head to head because one's a forward and one's a defenseman. But for what it's worth, Brock Faber in this game had no points and was a -1. And again, Kevin Fiala, just the one assist, but I thought a lot of good Kevin in this one. Need to keep that going forward. Adrian Kempe, we had a lot of good from him of late. Team leading 13th goal of the season. Had an assist as well in the win over Minnesota. Last 12 games for Juice, 8 goals and 12 points. The goal he scored did go off his skate and in, but it was because he was in the right position going hard to the net that he got a little bit of a lucky break. But I was mostly, a good player going hard to the net, getting a pass that something good happens. That's not luck to me. That's obviously doing your job and what you're supposed to do. He had a shift in the second period that was amazing. Flying up the ice, showing his speed, shoots in on net, and then the save is made. It's going back the other way. He immediately comes back on the back check and breaks up the play. Adrian Kempe getting it done at both ends, and we saw it specifically on that play for the Wild. And I did want to mention Trevor Moore, a couple of empty net goals, and you can always kind of, not think those are that important, but those are important goals to seal victories when you get the opportunity. Just 6 goals on the season for Trevor. Hopefully he can get it going, and maybe those 2 goals can help jumpstart him a little bit. We still need to give our 3 stars of the game. We need to check the Pacific Division standings, tell where the Kings are, and look ahead to this upcoming road trip for the Kings. All that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, get ready to tackle the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets when you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out live stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. We've got Monday Night Football tonight as the Dallas Cowboys are hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are 5.5-point road favorites in this one. Over-under is at 49.5. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. You can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's time for my favorite part of the show, 3 stars of the night, and that's because the Kings won. And this was pretty hard it was really a team win for the LA Kings. I mentioned Anderson and Gavrikov, they could have been a part of this. Andrei Kopitar, always a part of this. It was kind of hard, but my 3 stars of the game, I'm going to go with Alex Laferriere, had the game-winning goal. He is my number 3 star of the game as he continues to have an amazing sophomore season. No sophomore slump for Alex Laferriere. Darcy Kuemper back in net, my number 2 star of the game in this one. Solid. A couple of really big saves, especially that one early on. Who knows if the Wild score on that first shot, how it goes from there, if it just kind of sucks the life out of the Kings. But Darcy makes the big save in that one. And my number 1 star, I'm going to go with Adrian Kempe for what he did on both ends of the ice, also the goal and the assist. And he is leading the team right now in goals. So again, Alex Laferriere, my 3rd star, Darcy Kuemper, my 2nd star, and Adrian Kempe, the 3rd star of the game for me. But always fun to give out the 3 stars because the Kings win, and that was hard. And it's always good to have it be difficult to pick 3 stars because it means a lot of other players play well. All right, so the Kings are playing their best hockey of the season right now, and now they head on the road. 7 games away from home, starting on Tuesday in New York against the Islanders. They'll play the Devils on Thursday. That'll be a tough test. New Jersey is one of the better teams in the NHL. Saturday, they're at the Rangers. Next Tuesday, at the Penguins. Then the following Thursday at the Flyers. And then they'll wrap it up with a Saturday-Sunday pair of games at the Predators and at the Capitals, who are playing really, really good this year before the Kings head into the Christmas break. Very, very curious to see how the Kings can accept this challenge of keep it going, how they're playing of late as they go on the road. And believe me, the other teams know, hey, we got a hot team coming in here. They've won 5 in a row. We got to be ready to go. So the starts of these games, again, will continue to be a key for the LA Kings. Let's check out the Pacific Division standings as we go into a new week. The Vegas Golden Knights are still on top of the division where they've been pretty much all season long. 18-7-3 for 39 points for Vegas. They've won 3 in a row, so the Kings are not really gaining much ground on Vegas. Kings, though, still kind of solidly in second place with their 5-game winning streak, 16-8-3 for 35 points for the Kings, so 4 points back of first place. Vegas, the Canucks and Oilers are in third and fourth in the division, both with 32 points. Vancouver is 14-8-4. Edmonton is 15-10-2. You've got the Calgary Flames right now. They are in sixth place. Fifth place, excuse me. They have 31 points, 13-10-5. The Seattle Kraken have 29 points, 14-14-1. San Jose Sharks are in seventh place, 10-15-5 for 25 points. And the Anaheim Ducks in last place. Boy, that's sad to see. 10-12-3 are the Ducks for 23 points. I want to give you a quick rain check, rain report as we head into the rest of your day. The Kings AHL affiliate, Ontario Reign, playing some pretty good hockey of late, just like their NHL team. The Reign were 2-0 this weekend. Saturday, they beat the San Diego Gulls, the Ducks AHL affiliate, 2-1 in a shootout. Andre Lee, back down in Ontario, scored the equalizer in the third period to get the game even at 1. Taylor Ward then scored the only goal of the shootout as the Reign get the win. Eric Portillo stopped all 3 shooters he saw in the shootout, 21 saves in regulation and overtime in the victory. And on Sunday, the Kings beat the Bakersfield Condors, the Oilers AHL affiliate, 5-3. Charles Udon had a pair of goals in the first period, numbers 7 and 8 on the season for him. Martin Chromiak, Joe Hicketts, and Jeff Malott scored in the third period to put the game away. For Chromiak, his 5th, Hicketts his 1st of the season, and for Malott, his 3rd of the year. Phoenix Copley stopped 26 shots to get the victory. The Reign are now 13-8 overall in the season. They've won 6 of the last 7. This week, just one game. That's next Sunday at home against the Sharks, the AHL affiliate of San Jose, the Barracuda. All right, for you everydayers, those who listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on Tuesday, we will recap the game in New York against the Islanders. It's a 4:30 LA time face-off, so after the game, we'll record our show and we will recap the game against the Islanders. Wednesday, we'll see about getting a special guest and also preview the Kings-Devils game. Thursday, recap the Kings and Devils right after that game as well. And then, of course, on Friday, another Kings fan feedback show. Looking forward to another week of great Kings talk here on Locked On LA Kings. If you want to get an email in on the feedback show on Friday, or if you want to send an email for any other reason, lockedoneddie@gmail.com is the place to do that, EDDIE. You're always welcome to post your thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube in the comment section, we really appreciate that. Would love for you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. And as always, go Kings, go.